What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Hope y'all having a beautiful day, beautiful weekend, enjoying the sunshine. At least I am here where I am. And today's episode, man, you know, I'm gonna let you know it started from childhood, really. As a kid, you grow up or you start thinking about what you want to be and who you want to be when you grow up. Some kids they want to be policemen, firemen. Ironically, at one point in time, I wanted to be a farmer. Doctors, lawyers, all types of things, astronauts, anything you can name of. Um, and then there's some who consider having the highest position in the free world. We call it the United States presidency. And I must say, I have thought about that at some point in my life. Now, full disclosure, the missus, or I should say the doctor, has stated that she would never marry a politician. So, um, let's just let you know, I will never go this route. This is just a extreme hypothetical. But, you know, I think, I wouldn't say every kid, but some kids, they think about what it would be like to have that position of power. And, if you ask them, what would you do if you were president? A lot of times, even as kids and adults, you'll get the good. I'd end hunger. I'd, you know, stop wars, those types of things, just being the good of the good, the great of the great. As I've gotten older, I've realized that that office isn't for me. Now, no, don't get me wrong. I think I'd be great at it. I think I'd do a good job. I mean, if President Trump can do it, I believe I can do it. I think anybody can do it at that point if we're just letting celebrities hold the highest office in the free world. But I think there's just some morals and some values and some ideas I have that would keep us at the top, or at least in our mind at the top. Um, from education to police reform, all those types of things. And I'm not about to get into it because I don't want anybody watching this to put my name on any ballots in 2024 or 2028 or whatever you want to do. Please don't do that. Use your vote wisely and don't use it on me. But I wanted to kind of have this conversation today to let you know why I believe I would not be the best one to receive your vote for president of these United States. And there are a lot of reasons, but I'm gonna focus on three today. Reason number one, and I wouldn't say I just say reason number one because this is the one I just thought of, and not necessarily in terms of priority. But you all should know if you've been watching this show a lot that I have a strong disdain for disrespect, and every now and then I think countries around the world, both allies and foes, they tend to be just a little disrespectful to a degree. Now, I think a person wiser than me that actually should be that office, they would tell me, Mr. President, that you know these individuals are doing certain things to get a rise out of our country and therefore get us in something like war or in a bad position. And I get it. I think that's actually a legitimate reason. And I think that's a smart assessment of why, every now and then a country, i.e., Russia or Korea or North Korea, I believe it is, they'll do some things like, hey, make an idle threat of, hey, if you keep on interfering in what we're trying to do, there's going to be hell to pay, that type of thing. Well, I will tell you from my perspective, if I happened to wake up one morning and I saw the leader of Russia or China or North Korea popping off at the mouth, well, I might want to test it. I might want to push that button, not the nuclear weapon button. I would never do that. I would never do that. I promise you, American citizens, I would never do that. But I would never go that far. But I pushed the envelope a little bit. Why? Because call me patriotic, if you want, but I truly believe we're the best country around. I believe we don't need to take shit from anybody. And, it's one thing to take stuff from our allies, like, the UK. You know, every now and then they can get their little jab in. Um, I'll take that sometimes for the good of the order. But when it's an enemy, or as we call enemies, I mean, they don't always publicly come out and say that, but they get the gist that certain nations are deemed the enemy of the United States and the free world as we know it. And I just think if I was president, they'd have to see me. Uh, I would have no issue breaking down a foot army just to impose my will. Now, granted, like I said, the person smarter than me, more wiser than me, that really should have this position, they would say this is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they hoped you would do, Mr. President. Well, I gave them what they asked for. And so if there has to be a lot of new Americas across this great world that we live in, well, so be it. But I don't quite have the patience to tolerate the disrespect that some of our presidents in the past have. And so, as I look at certain things, I will give you one example, one more recent example. And I've talked about this before with the Brittany Griner situation. Glad she's free, glad she's home. So, granted, we knew that there was some political ploy there, just with us being able to, or just us supporting Ukraine in their fight against Russia. And now Russia has a prisoner that's important to us because, as Americans, we don't want to see anybody left behind. We don't want, um, our citizens, especially during a time of war, being stuck across enemy lines because who got only God knows what's going on and that type of leverage that they can have on us type of deal. And so, we kind of knew that Russia was trying to stick it to us a little bit because they, we were helping their enemy. We're their enemy in a way. And, they had a little leverage on us. And so they decided to say that, hey, well, if you want Brittany Griner, they're going to release an arms dealer, essentially, and probably one of the most notorious criminals this century, I'd say. Get it? It's time of war, and you got to make, if somebody has leverage over you, you have to make amends. And I get it. I get it. But part of me just going through that whole thing and watching from afar. Now, of course, President Biden and other folks around him, again, they're much wiser. They do how to approach the situation in a way that would be better for not just Brittany Griner's family, I would say the rest of the free world, and especially our soldiers. You never want to put them in a situation where you're putting innocent lives at stake. And I get it. So please take what I say with a grain of salt. But I just felt like Russia had a little bit too much dip on its chip and kind of pushing their bravado around a little bit. And I didn't like it. And if I had the highest office in the free world and I didn't like something, oh, you're going to know I don't like it. And again, if I got to make Russia the new America, I will. I have no problems doing that. I feel like we're bigger and we're better in every way. And, if push came to shove, well, I'll shove. So, you know, granted, I think that's why I'm not president, just that mindset. Um, that even presidents that we didn't think really were great at their job, I think they still showed a level of resolve. I think that's probably something you have to have to hold that office, to know that, hey, not every button is the button you push. Sometimes you just gotta let folks have their way, throw their weight around a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's just talk. They not about it like that, and so you don't have to be the aggressor in these situations. So shout out to those that have held the office in that regard, but just know that this president uh, wouldn't take stuff like that so lightly. Like even like South Korea saying, hey, we're in their affairs and they want to push their little bombs close to our borders and things of that nature. See, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't take that type of disrespect. But if you watch the show, you know how I feel about this disrespectful action. So, you know, don't vote for me 2024. Don't vote for me in any year. Because first of all, I'm not running. But if enough of y'all crazy people put my name on the ballot, I might just end up like Chris Rock and end up being president without even wanting that. So you don't need that because I don't think I think I'll do some great things. That I might be too easy of a president to sway to, do some military stuff. So let's just call it that. So that's one reason why I believe I would not make a good president and why you should not trust your vote to me. Secondly, I would lose the entire state of Utah. I can't tell you where it begins. I don't know if it's because the Utah Jazz have the name of the New Orleans Jazz, and like I never even heard of a jazz musician from Utah. Do they even play jazz there? Maybe if they gave us our name back so they wouldn't be New Orleans Pelicans for whatever reason, I might feel a little bit better about the state of Utah. But I've tried to Google, I've tried to figure out exactly what the state of Utah brings. Maybe they were allowed to be a state during the railroad expansion, and obviously we needed those lands to get railroads from east to west, and I get that. But don't you think they kind of wore out their welcome just a little bit? I mean, if I could substitute Utah and Puerto Rico, like make Utah a United States province and make Puerto Rico an official state, I would. It's probably something I'm doing day one. I mean, unless somebody can convince me otherwise. But I don't know. It's just something. And I can't get into too much detail about my beefs with the state of Utah, but just know from a general standpoint, I just don't know what they bring to the union. Maybe somebody can tell me, like, if there's anything beyond the railroad, like, are they beneficial in the oil industry? I don't think so. Are they beneficial in textile trade? Like, they're landlocked. So, I mean, they don't have a port or anything like that. So what is their contribution to these United States? I would very much like someone, if you're listening, to educate me on that, because I've been going back and forth. And if there was a time during my presidency where we had to make certain cuts to the union to make sure that everything else went well, I think Utah would be first on the chopping block. I mean, they might enjoy the freedom of not, being a part of the United States. They can do their own thing as far as I'm concerned, but I just don't see the value. Like I said, I'd trade them for Puerto Rico in a heartbeat. And I can't even tell you what Puerto Rico brings, but it just sounds like it makes a much better state than Utah. So I know firsthand, like, I wouldn't even get a percentage of the vote. Like, even the black people in Utah wouldn't vote for me. You know why? Because on the campaign trail, I would openly state that I will push for succession. Like, I want Utah out. How do I do that? Is there a bylaw? Is there something in the Constitution? Is there something within my executive powers that I can push Utah out? I will find it. That is a big reason why you should not put my name on any ballots. Even if I catch amnesia and think that running for president is a great idea, please don't run the risk of voting for me then. Remember this video, because soon as inauguration hits, I might just remember my beef with Utah. And then there it is. They're their own thing. Now, like I said, people in Utah, I don't know how they think. I don't really pay attention to Utah politics. They might want to be on their own. They might be pushing for that. That might be the thing that makes them want to vote for me. Who knows? I know there's a lot of other states that want to succeed, but no, y'all got to stay. We don't want 1861 again. So I'd rather not be the president. I don't want to be the stereotypical black president in the movies that I think probably scared people when President Obama ran. It's like, well, did you see the other movies? Like, even Morgan Freeman failed as president. Like, my God, like, if Morgan Freeman fails, well, what do you think this guy's going to do? Well, but shout out to Obeezy. He kind of proved the doubters wrong. But just saying, he wasn't the one, but maybe it skipped the generation. Maybe when I get in there, I'm the one that has, White House down, and it's not a movie, it's the real thing. Who knows? But just something to think about. in Utah, I'm sorry. I truly don't know exactly what or when this beef began, but it's here. Like, think about it. Utah ruined NBA All-Star Weekend this year. Like, nobody even talked about it. It was in Salt Lake City. Nobody cared. Nobody cared so much. The NBA was so desperate. They brought Karl Malone, who was off the grid for like 20 years. They brought him back to be a judge, and we know what he did. So that just raised my disdain for the state even more. Like, we knew what Karl Malone did, and we just let him walk around. Now, granted, that's not Utah's fault. That's Louisiana's fault. But because I'm a native Louisianian, I just gotta take the good with. I gotta take the bad with the good and the good with the bad. So, I can't disown them. I mean, they made me, but they raised me. But if I could, y'all might be a close second to Utah. I just want to say because of the whole Karl Malone thing. And then again, you let Utah take Jazz. Like, there's no Jazz musicians in Utah. Point me to one. Point me to a good one. You can't. So stop it. Give us our name back, and maybe I might reconsider this whole beef. Like, I truly think if that happens, I will forget all of this. I will forget that I even had, a level of disdain or wherewithal about Utah. So I don't know who needs to make this happen. Is it Commissioner Adam Silver with the NBA? Auntie Gail, if you can put a good word in at the owners' meetings that we should think about changing our name. I truly think if we get the Jazz back, Pelicans or the New Orleans basketball franchise might actually be a championship contender. I think that's the one thing that's holding it back, if you ask me. So, in essence, Utah is holding Louisiana back. Wonder how y'all feel about that. Louisiana, maybe I can get y'all on my side on that one. Who knows? See you in 2024. And look, the first two, they're funny. I make jest and all of that. Obviously, military members in my family, I don't take that lightly in terms of sending innocent, men and women to places where they may not come back for nothing, essentially just for a throw your weight around type of gesture between two dominant nations. So I wouldn't really do that. I don't think. I don't know. Like I said, it depends on the day. Maybe if somebody, messed up my coffee or something, it might be an issue. And then obviously the whole Utah thing. Look, all I really want to know is just what Utah brings to the United States. I think that's one of the reasons why I have so much of a beef with them. I just look at everything and I'm like, why are they here? What do they do? How are they helpful? And so maybe if someone from the great state of Utah can educate me on that. And also if their basketball team can change names and have a name that is something related to Utah, then we can talk shop. But to be quite honest, I think the reason why I probably shouldn't be president is I think I'd be too good at it. And sure, I think everybody thinks that. I think President Biden thinks like he's too good at it. President Trump thought that. President Obama, President Bush, so on and so forth, probably from the first president in George Washington, probably thought they were that guy, probably the smartest person in the room, and could really get the job done. But what I have seen is doing the right thing sometimes seems so hard, just as a politician in general. And that's one thing I never really understood. I understand people have their constituents, and sometimes a segment of the population that votes for you and got you in that position, you usually try to find a way to appease them because you want to run for re-election. You want to get those people and keep their support, right? And I get that. But I will say, I think as Americans, we, for the most part, still want some of the same basic things. We want to be able to make a living and have an opportunity to do that in this country. We want to make sure our family and our communities are safe. We want to make sure that our kids are getting educated, they're graduating, and they're going out into the workforce and making this country run. I think, generally speaking, that is what each American wants. You say it in different ways, but when you come down to it, those are some of the general things. And I'm sure there's more, some general wants and desires that you want to see in this country. I think the issue we have is that we think there's different ways of getting it, or there's different ways of doing it, and we end up fighting each other. One group thinks this group is preventing them from getting what they want. And so you see a lot of bigotry going around this country when in reality, we all just want the basic functions. And I would want to be a president that makes sure I'm open with that and making sure that we got to do this together. And we can't allow capitalism or elitism to get in the way of that. You know, the blue collar working man to the white collar dressed up in the suit in corporate America. We got to make sure that, hey, they're the same. No one's better than the other. Everybody's out here trying to make an honest living, I hope. And if you're not, you're probably in jail or something. We're going to be going to jail or something like that. But at the end of the day, there's a way we can do that. And we can do that together as a nation. Because I think the more we divide ourselves, the world watches, and the world watches us in particular. We may not always believe that. And we may believe even if they do watch us, they only watch for the good, but I do think they watch for the bad habits. And bad habits over time aren't ideal for sustainability. If you can look at any major empire or civilization, and their end and their demise didn't just happen like that. It happened over time. It happened internally. And when you can't control the house, you can't control what goes on out of it. And then everybody attacks the house. But when everybody in the house is at odds, nobody understands that you have to arm up and you have to team up until it's too late. And now outsiders are in your house and they're giving you the orders. And now you have to be uniform because they're going to tell you exactly what they want from you, how they want you to do it. And you no longer have that freedom, essentially. And I don't quite think it would happen in my lifetime or, survive kids or anything like that. I don't think it'll have happened in their lifetimes, but I think there's going to be a time that if we don't band together as a country and as countrymen and women, that we're going to get to a point of no return. And we know who the enemies are, or at least who we're told the enemies are. We know who those ones are. But we never talk about our allies much. And I think history will show you're only an ally for as long as you can be helpful. And what happens when we're no longer helpful to the allies that we have? What does that do? Do they band up against us? Do they allow our enemies to overpower us into where they don't come and help when we need it? Because there will be a time when we need it. We're big, we're bad. I get it. I believe it. But everybody needs help, right? And you want to have help when people respect you, not necessarily because they fear you. And I think to a degree, especially post World War II, I think we've operated in a fashion where we've implemented fear that, hey, we can take down the big bad Germans. We can take down, Italians and Japanese and end the war. We can do that to you. And to some degree, I think we've operated on that fear. But in that span of time, we haven't really paid attention to each other. We haven't built each other up. Jobs are not here anymore. They're being exported elsewhere. Products are being exported. But actually products have to be imported. So we're relying on other people. Debt is as high as it's ever been. So we're indebted to other nations, including our enemy nations. And I don't think that's a good place to be. And I don't want to be in a situation as a country where we're the lame duck. It's time to get rid of us. And so as president, I would make sure we are implementing strategies and implementing a culture that is truly making our nation great for everybody, not just the elites, not just for the, who. but for everyone, that they can come here and have a life, make a life for themselves, make a life for their families if they have one, and make life for generations. And the generations of strong-willed units, when it's time to fight for something, we're already ready. One of my favorite statements is, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I think that's what America needs. We need to stay ready so we don't have to get ready. And there's too many times, even in our history, where we had to get ready because we weren't. And enemies took advantage of that. I'd rather that not happen. And I don't care if it's in my lifetime or 1,000 lifetimes from now. Who wants that? Not here. So thirdly, I just don't think I'd be good because, or I'd be the person to wear that mantle because I would take pride in it. And not to say that other presidents haven't taken pride in it. I think they have. And if you look at when they went into office and when they come out of office, the wear and tear of the job is just noticeable. But I think it's because it's a constant battle of who to appease and how to keep us free. But, I think a way to offset that is making sure that our citizens respect and appreciate that freedom because it's not everywhere. And they love it enough, they respect it enough for their fellow man, and that they understand that, hey, when it's time to fight, we're already ready to fight for it. We've created that love and that appreciation for what we have, and we don't want to lose it. And so there's hard decisions. Um, I get it, but too many times in our world of politics, it's left versus right, liberal versus conservative, just this versus that, versus. When are we going to be on the same team? Wouldn't it be better if we created a super team and just dominated, won all the championships? That's what I would operate in my presidency. So look, heed my warning or don't. But if I hear that my name's on the ballot anytime in the next 10 to 20 years, understand that I warned y'all and I did not endorse this message. I said not to. But if you choose your American right to do so, then by all means do it. But I'd rather not be Chris Rock in this situation. I at least want to be ready, right? So I guess I got to follow my own advice. I guess I got to stay ready so I don't have to get ready. So if y'all do end up doing something that's crazy as voting me as president, maybe I'll already be ready and have my policies in place. So I can make do on the promises of being great and being good at what I do. Now, we got to the part of the show and you already know. Say anything that offends anybody, that's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to educate me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.